All right, what's good? What's good? Give us a like and subscribe here to our channel here in Golden Era. So we are live here in X and also in YouTube as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about these fights, and I'm going to give my opinion of what I think should happen because we saw some really good fights yesterday, and I'm happy because I was excited because really rarely do we see like a bunch of events happening at the same time. Now, I didn't like the fact that Bam versus Cafu was at the same time as Fundora versus Sue. I thought that was kind of like that sucked, to be honest, because I hate watching two fights at the same time. It's like you have to like pay attention and all this, but it's just hard, to just focus on one fight. But it was they were good events. They were definitely good events. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what I think should happen with Alexander Usyk. Um, a lot of people, after Usyk became undisputed 3 times as a heavyweight, are now claiming that Usyk is the best heavyweight, or at least in the top 10 heavyweight of all time, right? And I have some questions about that because there's a lot of good heavyweights, especially from the golden era days, the golden age, especially if you're looking at boxers from Sam Langford all the way to Muhammad Ali. So you're covering the 50s, Max Baer. You have boxers like Johnny Risco. I mean, you just so many good fighters. Jack Sharkey, Harry Wills. So there was a lot of good boxers during that time. And then we head to Muhammad Ali, and then from Muhammad Ali, we go to Larry Holmes and Lennox Lewis, Vander Holyfield, and Michael Moore, and then we moved to Klitschko, and then which I didn't think that was too competitive during the Klitschko era, and then we head into Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, and also now Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, right? So there's been a lot of history with the heavyweight division. Now, one thing I definitely cannot do is put Alexander Usyk as a pound for pound great. That's comparing all the fighters that were in different divisions and number 10 spots. Some people are doing that. That is absolutely insane. No. So Alexander Usyk is definitely the best boxer right now and definitely in the number one in my pound for pound list. Okay. Now, it all depends on what Crawford does against Canelo Alvarez. He has to beat Canelo Alvarez. He wanted that fight, so now he has to beat Canelo Alvarez. If Terence Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez, it really does change my ranking, and I would have to put Terence Crawford over Alexander Usyk because he will become 3-time undisputed champion, right? Which will be insane if Terence Crawford is able to become a 3-time undisputed champ. I mean, this guy started in lightweight and he went all the way to super middleweight literally to fight Canelo Alvarez. So you got to give him a lot of credit for that. The dude is an absolute warrior, okay? And I'll be really proud of him because he's an American fighter. So we'll see. But for right now, Alexander Usyk is my number one pound for pound. And I don't think you can really argue that. Crawford, I have him number 2. But now Ayune is not far away. And it really just depends on Ayune, what type of moves he's going to make because he's the younger one out of the two. And he still has a lot of room to make really good fights. So we'll see how historically he ranks up in comparison with these other two legends. They were in his generation, right? Now, Usyk right now, he's not really competing for being the number 1 spot or not even the number 2. Now it's more about his legacy historically, right? And this is where it can become a little tricky because if you grew up in the 90s, you know that heavyweight boxing was the shit. Okay, there were a lot of good fighters during the 90s, a lot of good boxers during the 90s. Okay, there was the Tony Tuckers, Ray Mercer, all those boxers, right? They were just good. Vander Holyfield, he was double undisputed in cruiserweight and also heavyweight. So there was a lot of good boxers in the 90s. Okay. And David Tua, we can forget about him. But there was a lot of good boxers. So now the question is, Alexander Usyk needs to absorb and beat as many boxers or high quality ranked boxers during his generation. And that's something that he needs to do if he wants to end up in a really high position. I definitely believe he would compete with different talents and different generations. But, for example, if we look at Archie Moore, who fought in heavyweight, the dude had over 220 fights and 38 knockouts or something ridiculous like that. He fought like great boxers during that time, right? So now you're comparing with the Archie Moores or Ezra Charles and all these boxers that went to the heavyweight division who also did their thing as well, right? And that can become tricky because those fighters were amazing, okay? So, in my opinion, to move up the scales, one of the things that Alexander Usyk needs to do, okay, first and foremost, he needs to beat Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker right now is one of the boxers who is one of the most proven boxers as a heavyweight. And also, he is a boxer who was a WBO champion as well, right? He just came for beating Martin Bocol. And a lot of people say, well, he wasn't even ready. He only had 2 days as a substitute to fight against Joseph Parker. Well, that's not Joseph Parker's fault. He should be ready, fight ready, just like everybody else. Sebastian Fundora, when Keith Thurman got replaced by Sebastian Fundora, I think he had like a week or less than a week, or it was quick, and he beat Tim Tszyu. So not really an excuse for Bocole. He should have been fight ready. Okay, that's what most boxers should be. They should be fight ready. So Alexander Usyk, Joseph Parker beat him, and Bocole was supposed to be the boogeyman because he beat Jaron Anderson. And it's sad to say, but the Americans right now in the heavyweight division is being kind of weak. I have a few speculations why, but America's role in the heavyweight division since the Klitschko's has been really poor. And the best that we can produce now is basically Jared Miller's or Deontay Wilder's, okay? However, at least we got something. But Alexander Usyk, if he wants to keep in the historical mode, he definitely is going to have to take a fight with Joseph Parker, because I believe that Joseph Parker is one of the few boxers who can give him trouble still, okay? I don't think Ajit Kabayet and all those different boxers that people are bringing up, I don't think those are going to make a big difference. And they don't have the names that Joseph Parker has in his record right now. That's the type of boxers that Usyk needs to upgrade his record, right? The Joseph Parker, not the Kabayets and all these other boxers that are coming up. He needs Joseph Parker. That will be a tough fight. But if he beats Joseph Parker, it's only going to make him upgrade already, and it's only going to upgrade his legacy. So that's going to be really good for him. Okay, he needs to beat Joseph Parker, but I think Joseph Parker give him trouble. So we'll see what happens. Let's see if he takes that fight next. He's a pit bull. Usyk is a pit bull. He's willing to fight everybody and everyone. So I think that fight will be made, but we'll see. Another fight that I believe it is kind of important for him to take is going to be Deontay Wilder. Okay, out of all the different boxers that he's faced, this will be really in the heavyweight division. This will be really his only American. This will be the only American boxer he will have to face. Now, obviously, most people are thinking you got to be crazy. Alexander Usyk is going to literally destroy Deontay Wilder, and you're probably right. Okay, the problem is that in theory, all the boxers who faced Deontay Wilder should have destroyed, including King Kong Ortiz. Okay, Luis Ortiz, he should have, in theory, destroyed Deontay Wilder, but he got knocked out 2 times, right? Now Deontay Wilder gave Tyson Fury a fight for his life, especially in the first fight. The second fight was really good. In the third fight, then Fury pulled up his boxing and he outsmarted Wilder and beat him, right? But remember one thing: Anthony Joshua never wanted to take the fight with Deontay Wilder. Okay, he was scared of facing Deontay Wilder for the undisputed championship, and Anthony Joshua kind of fucked it up because had he fought Deontay Wilder and beat him, he would have been undisputed. Now, in my opinion, I think Deontay Wilder would have knocked him out. Okay, but he kind of hurt his legacy, and he hurt Deontay Wilder's legacy as well. Okay. On top of that, Klitschko never really wanted to fight Deontay Wilder. I know they had sparring sessions. There was a bunch of rumors about that. And obviously, Klitschko knew the type of power that Wilder had in his right hand, right? So Deontay Wilder was kind of avoided at one point in his division, okay? Now, the reason why it would be a good idea to fight Deontay Wilder is because there's going to be questions in the future if certain fights don't happen, right? We all have questions. So if we look at the legacy of Usyk, and we don't see and we see highlights of in the future, you see highlights of Joseph Parker, or you see highlights of Wilder knocking out people, right? You're going to be like, well, I wonder what would have happened if Usyk had fought against Joseph Parker. What would have happened if he would have fought against Deontay Wilder? These are questions that we all have, okay? And it's normal. So in order to avoid that, what you want to do is you want to take these fights head forward. Therefore, people can't really question your legacy, because now it's a question of legacy. Remember, you're saying that Alexander Usyk is this top heavyweight, and now you're comparing him with the greats of the past. You're basically saying this guy is better than XYC, right? You have to have the best record. You have to win. You have to make sure that you not only clean your division, which is already amazing. He's a two-time undisputed champion heavyweight. But now you have to make sure that there's no stone unturned. Now make sure you take all, right? So by beating Deontay Wilder, it wouldn't make a difference whether Deontay Wilder was in his prime or he wasn't in his prime, because Deontay Wilder has always been flat-footed. He's always been a boxer that was very limited technically. But if he catches you with one hand, just one hand, it only needs 1 second, the fight changes. And that's the risk of fighting somebody like Wilder. Generally speaking, a fighter with his skills would have not really gone too far. But because he carries that natural power, he's a natural puncher, okay? He doesn't box as well as George Foreman and, obviously Archie Moore, who had an incredible amount of KOs in the heavy, and, just in general, he was an amazing KO artist. He doesn't have that sort of skill set, but he just lands one shot, just one place good shot, and it's over. So whether he was in his prime or whether Deontay Wilder was not in his prime, he's the same fighter, because he only requires one shot to put you down. It's not going to make a difference. And I think, if I'm mistaken, I could be wrong, y'all can correct me, I think they're about the same age. In fact, I think Usyk and Deontay Wilder are about the same age. It'd be a good idea. I think it's a good idea that he takes that challenge. And if he beats Alexander Usyk, if he beats Deontay Wilder, then really, there's not much to say. I mean, he already did great history. I mean, he's in the history books, and now you can think about placing him with other greats. Now, I think another problem with his record is going to be, how do you place a boxer with 24 fights and, you're comparing them with the greats that had over 100 fights, especially fighting, really tough opposition? How do you do that? How do you compare him with, Zach McBays and, George Gottfield and all those sort of boxers? How do you compare him, right? That's problematic. Like Jack Sharkey's, he didn't have as many fights, but he definitely was a really good heavyweight during this time, right? Tony Logram, all those. How do you do that? So that will be important, because the amount of fights does play a difference. Because one thing is to fight 25 or 26 fights. I think he only has 24 fights. Another thing is to fight over 100 fights and having hard opposition over and over again. So that's a little bit of the issue that he's going to have because he didn't have too many fights. But what he did right. So you got to give him credit for that. But I think definitely he is a generational talent, no question, no doubt. He is a monster in his own way. And I think that, is one of those fighters that will look back and be like, wow, we saw Alexander Usyk fight, right, in our generation. Just like we can see Terence Crawford or Nayune, we can say that about Alexander Usyk. So we'll see what he does. Cocoon is like, what up, Jimmy? Hey, what up, Cocoon? How you doing, my man? You're here in English too. All right, so let's go to the next topic. If you got any questions, you can put your questions here, but let's go to the next topic if not. And don't be shy, I don't bite. Okay. All right, so let's talk about Teofimo Lopez. Let's talk about that topic. Okay, so y'all probably don't follow me in my channel, which I have started the channel in Spanish. I can speak both languages, so, but I started, if you look at my channel, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I had always said that Teofimo Lopez was a pussy. Okay? He's a coward and a pussy. And one of the reasons why is because, in my opinion, the moment he had the opportunity in 135 pounds to become undisputed against Devin Haney, I sensed the energy. I can smell a pussy. And in this sport of boxing, if you're going to create a legacy, you cannot smell like pussy. He did the same thing in 140. And he could have, for example, he could have fought Surreal Matias, and we'll talk about that one in a second, but he could have fought Surreal Matias in 140 pounds. He could have fought Regis Prograis too. Regis Prograis, I mean, we can question, certain things about Regis Prograis, but I mean, he fought Devin Haney. He unified, right? He tried to unify. He fought good opposition, so he was willing to fight Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo didn't want that fight. Arnold Barbosa literally was begging to fight against Teofimo while he was actually fighting Steve Claggett. These are moves of a pussy. Okay? This is a pussy move. And it stinks. Not only that, but Alberto Puello was there, and he wanted that fight too. Just quiet. Strangely enough, he says he wanted to fight Terence Crawford, but I think it was just for clout chasing because all he wanted is to get attention. When he saw Crawford face to face, he literally was about to cry. He looked like a little baby. In fact, if Crawford would have pulled down his pants and said, "Go suck it," Teofimo would have been okay. I'm going to get in my knees right now. Please don't hit me. That's what it looked like. To be honest. So now, the question is, where are you, Teofimo? Yesterday, not just recently, it was proven, without a question of a doubt, that you ducked Devin Haney. You literally just showed why for so many years I called you a coward. Finally, people realize that. Late but secure. Surreal Matias saw him yesterday. And I don't like Surreal Matias' style. It's not my style of boxing. But he does have a pair of balls. Surreal Matias has a pair of balls. He saw Teofimo Lopez yesterday. Slapped him right in the back of the head. I mean, if you fucking slap him back of the head, I'm gonna smash you in the face. He fucking slapped him in the back of the head. In the stadium. And then he saw him face to face and he started recriminating. He literally called him a pussy in front of everybody. And what did Teofimo Lopez say? Nothing. Even Russell. He also got to see Teofimo Lopez. That's a really good fight. And I don't think that Teo is going to beat Gary Antoine Russell. I think Gary Antoine Russell is going to put a beating on that boy. But what happened? Quiet. His situation is so bad. I mean, his situation is so bad that not even Turki Al-Sheikh wants to actually promote him or give him the opportunity to fight, because not only is he a pussy, but he's a racist. In fact, he got all in his feelings the moment that Turki Al-Sheikh, because Devin Haney is a Muslim, wanted to make Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez. The moment he wanted to make that fight, Teofimo Lopez literally was in his period. He went ape shit and started. He looked like he was on hormones, going crazy, talking shit about Turkish. He's just trying to make the good fight, man. That's all the fight. As a person who's a fan of boxing, that's the fights that I want to make. I don't give a fuck what style. I don't complain if you call a boxer or a runner, all that. That's some casual shit. You never seen boxing. If he's hugging, that's some garbage shit. That's some pussy shit. If you've been in the boxing ring, that's normal. So, like I said, clinching and all these things are part of boxing. If you want to watch bare knuckle fighting, then go ahead and watch bare knuckle fighting. But I'm telling you one thing: if you want to be a macho man, go do bare knuckle fighting, because that is more balls than boxing for sure. Okay, not many Latinos practice that sport. Okay, so don't talk about this shit about running and whatever. If you want to see blood and guts, I don't know why you're not watching bare knuckle fighting. Anyway, that's my opinion. But Teofimo Lopez has really hurt himself. He's really hurt himself. And here's the problem. He needs to take a good fight. Because if he fucking fights another Steve Claggett, that's going to look really, really bad. He cannot fight anybody who's not in a championship level. And do you believe for a second that he wanted to fight Jaron Ennis? Are you fucking kidding me? He wants to fight Jaron Ennis? Why would he fight Jaron Ennis if he is ducking Devin Haney? Because Jaron Ennis has power, and he'll put that dude in his ass if he fights him. It was all smoke and mirrors. But now it got exposed. It got exposed. And sad to say, Teofimo Lopez, you're a pussy. You're always a pussy. And I want to make this straight because people don't understand this. I said it in our channel in Spanish if you follow the lives that we do there. I know people who have a warrior gene. Okay? Some people have a warrior gene. Doesn't matter where you're from. You can be American like me. You can be from Mexico. You can be from Guatemala. You can be from Canada. It doesn't really matter. Some people have a warrior gene. Jojo Diaz has a warrior gene. He's willing to fight anybody. Win, draw, or lose, he'll fight him. Stephen Fulton, warrior gene. He will take any fight. He's a dog. Devin Haney, warrior gene. You can accuse him of being arrogant and all this gay ass shit. Why do you care about a man what do you care? I mean, this is like telenovela or some shit. What do you care what he does outside of boxing? Focus on the sport, on what he's giving you. That's what I like about Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner had a pair of balls. He gave me the fights that I wanted to see. He wasn't ducking, acting like Triple G, like a good little boy, and then ducking other fighters. He wasn't like that. He was a real warrior. Jose Cepeda, willing to fight anybody. Dave Benavidez, warrior gene, willing to fight anybody. Sorel Matias, willing to fight anybody. Alberto Puello, warrior gene, willing to fight everybody. Rayo Valenzuela, willing to fight everybody. Edwin de los Santos, willing to fight Warrior Gene. They got the Warrior Gene. Alexander Usyk, Warrior Gene. Terence Crawford, Warrior Gene. Sebastian Fundora, Warrior Gene. Erickson Lubin, Warrior Gene. Jesus Ramos, Warrior Gene. And there's more. Teofimo Lopez doesn't have that Warrior Gene. He's a pussy. Not everybody has that gene. He's scared. And he was always scared because that's part of his genetic pool. He don't got the balls, the huevos, the nuts. He sees Devin Haney, looks the other side. He looks at Surreal Matias, looks at the other side because he's scared. So, at the end of the day, Teofimo Lopez was always a fraud, and even his undisputed championship was for the franchise belt. But he did have the opportunity to be legitimately a real undisputed champion. Threw it away because he is a pussy. A coño. And he's looking really bad in these streets. So what he needs to do, he's going to have to take a really tough fight. Because if he takes a weak fight, it's only going to show that he is weak. Which he is. So if you have any questions about Teofimo Lopez, this is the time to ask the question. But if not, we continue. Any questions about Teofimo Lopez? Any questions about Teofimo? Any questions about Teo? Don't be shy. I don't bite. We are as real as you're ever going to see in the boxing scene. And don't worry, I'm not racist like many channels. I'm not like that. I appreciate the sport of boxing. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All the single ladies? All the single ladies. All right. So let's go to the next topic then. Erickson Lubin and Murtazaliev. Cocoon says Teofimo is a poodle. Yeah, he's definitely a poodle. Absolutely 100%. He's no pit bull. He's a poodle. He's afraid. All right. So let's go to the next topic. So one of the things I like about X is that you can kind of tell pussies, okay? Now, in my opinion, a lot of people, when we look at Braham Murtazaliev, which by the way, I interviewed him like 3 or 4 years ago. It was an email. He was actually ranked pretty high in his weight class. I forgot if it was the WBA or IBF. I forgot. It was some time ago. But he was ranked pretty high. But it's past like 4 or 5 years. And before Tim Tszyu, the only opponent that he fought who has some sort of caliber was Jack O'Kay. Now, Jack is out of his prime. And he's not necessarily like he's a dangerous fighter. I mean, he's a good fighter. He's, kind of proven. But if you watch that fight between Murtazaliev and Kokai, it didn't really show me too much about Murtazaliev, okay? The Russian guy. The IBF champion. Now, so prior to that, there wasn't really anything that I saw that Murtazaliev looks like Abraham Lincoln. Okay, Murtazaliev looks like Abraham Lincoln. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. Now, when he fought Tim Tszyu, Tim Tszyu was destroyed in that fight. I mean, he literally was destroyed. Murtazaliev destroyed Tim Tszyu on that fight. So a lot of people say or claim that after that fight with Tim Tszyu was not the same. I highly disagree with that. The reason, in my opinion, with Tim Tszyu was not the same was because when he fought against Sebastian Fundora, because Sebastian Fundora was a quick replacement for Keith Thurman, I think the loss against Fundora, especially that bloody fight, the fact that he gave it all, I think that was devastating for him, because it's not like he lost against Keith Thurman, which is more known. He lost against Fundora, but Fundora was a very tested and proven fighter. That guy was tested. In fact, Fundora is the most tested 154 pounder right now in that division, no question, no doubt. Whether he's the best or not, we'll have to see. They have to unify to make the titles happen and become undisputed. But he's definitely tested. After that fight, Tim Tszyu, when he got in the ring with Murtazaliev, he looked flat-footed. He looked like he had no IQ. He came face forward and got put backward in his ass a couple times. I didn't see anything from Tim Tszyu. In fact, I thought he got worse when he fought against Murtazaliev than he did with Fundora. So after Fundora destroyed him, Murtazaliev became automatically, in the eyes of a lot of casual fans, the boogeyman of the division. I have a lot of doubts about that guy, and it's not because he hits hard. He doesn't hit hard. Brad Mendoza was able to knock out Sebastian Fundora. Great punch, great time punch, but that was a one-hit wonder. It only happened one time, and then Brian Mendoza, after that fight, kind of disappeared. It happens. But I was more impressed with what Brian Mendoza did to Sebastian Fundora than what Murtazaliev did to Tim Tszyu. Because to me, Fundora was way more tested and a much more difficult boxer in general to face. I mean, his height and everything, just everything is just reach than Tim Tszyu. Because I always thought Tim Tszyu was like mediocre. I never thought he was that special. So, did Brian Mendoza, did he go next level? No. But it was impressive what he did, and many people started believing in him. You saw the hype. And he's from my state, so I give nothing but respect to Brian Mendoza, but, it is what it is. Now, Murtazaliev is calling all the champions out, okay? And that's a great thing. He's basically calling all the champions out. And it is possible that Virgil Ortiz, we'll see what happens. But it's possible that Virgil Ortiz and Oscar De La Hoya are not right now willing to fight Murtazaliev. Maybe because in optics, what he did to Tim Tszyu looks so hard that they're not willing to take the risk right now. Could be. Terence Crawford. Right now he's facing Canelo Alvarez, and we'll speak more about that fight. But Murtazaliev is saying that every champion is ducking him, and nobody wants to fight him. Well, we're going to find out if this guy has a pussy or he's really for real. Because apparently Erickson Lubin, an ex, tweeted that he wanted to fight Murtazaliev because Erickson Lubin is the IBF number one ranked mandatory. And apparently Murtazaliev was looking for Josh Kelly, who's ranked number 3 in the IBF. What? Why do you want to fight the hype job from England? I'm sorry if you're English, but that's true. Josh Kelly is a hype job. Who was also at 147 pounds, if I remember, a few years ago. He didn't do shit. Why do you want to fight Josh Kelly? I mean, you say you're the boogeyman. You say you're the man to be. You say everybody's ducking you. But Erickson Lubin is saying, you're a hype job. You should fight me. It's Erickson Lubin that's calling him out. And I believe Erickson Lubin because Erickson Lubin has a pair of balls. Erickson Lubin beat Jesus Ramos, who's another, I said, warrior gene, willing to fight everybody without a championship, without a belt in the line. He fought Andreas Holmes, which is a good American prospect, destroyed him. He's literally fought everybody. So he's not afraid of Murtazaliev. I'm going to put it this way. If Murtazaliev picks Josh Kelly over Erickson Lubin, because we got to be realistic here in boxing. Let's stop talking about the purses. And listen, we're not escorts, okay? We're men. We want to see the best fights. Stop talking about, make enough money. He's not making enough money. Oh my God. Look at his purse. Look at his purse. He makes a lot of money. That's not how real men talk. Not if you're a boxing fan. But now people talk about other people's purses and their money. How much do they make? He doesn't deserve a fight. He doesn't deserve it. He wants the money. Well, any fucking fighter wants some money. But maybe he wants the legacy, which is what we should want. Right? And stop giving so much credit to prize fighting or prize fighters who want to take away the legacy of other boxers just because they want to earn more money. That's pussy. So, Murtazaliev takes on Josh Kelly over Erickson Lubin. This guy is a tremendous pussy. This guy he's a hype job because you are saying that you're the most avoided fighter, but now you have a good test in your hands with Erickson Lubin. If he beats and destroys Erickson Lubin, which I think will be a hard fight for him, you are tested because you did that to Tim Tszyu. You just showed that you're not a one-hit wonder type of boxer because you destroyed Erickson Lubin, who was a complicated boxer to beat. That's all you need to do. Just fight Erickson Lubin. If you knock him out, even beat him by points. Sometimes, the power changes when the level of opposition goes up. You don't hit as hard because other boxers are better prepared physically and mentally. They can take more and they can give more. But if he doesn't take that fight and Erickson Lubin bullies him, then in my opinion, he's not the real deal. Because he's definitely not Sebastian Fundora. Sebastian Fundora took Erickson Lubin. He fought against them. And he did what he had to do. Erickson Lubin, after that fight, he looked like Avatar. But credit to him. He's a warrior. So, that's what my concern is. Will Murtazaliev actually grow a pair of balls and take that fight with Erickson Lubin? I don't know. I hope he does. Because they hype these boxers that come from Eastern Europe or Russia or whatever. And listen, some are going to be good, but not everybody's going to be good. Not all of them are going to be good. Some of them might be just hype jobs. I don't know. I think they take the fights. That's how we will know. So that's my opinion on that. I think that Murtazaliev definitely has to take fight with Erickson Lubin. He definitely has to take that fight. Otherwise, he's going to look really, really bad in these streets, you know. So that's my opinion. All right. Well, with that said, thank you for listening. Also, follow us in X and follow us in Golden Boxing USA too. And with that said, we'll see you in the next video. And put your comments below. Tell me what you think. It's always important. All right. We'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Into the next.